Pregame.com.
Welcome back on Pregame.com. I'm Pauly Howard. That's Teddy Covers. Let's get to the NBA. And what did we learn for the first month of the season? A lot of surprises, a lot of disappointments. Sixers, of course. Memphis off to a great start. And Toronto. But let's look at this from a point spread perspective. First, we'll start with the top four teams. But I want to start with Memphis and Golden State. Jaeger was supposed to lose his job. The owner's a loon. He comes back. A great start to the season so far. And then Golden State, I thought Mark Jackson was a terrible coach, couldn't drop a play out of a timeout. Kerr comes in, the unknown. Is he going to be good? I don't know. Well, great record so far for Golden State.
Yeah, Memphis and Golden State, both straight up and against the spread, have been monsters in early season play. Commonalities between those two teams. Number one, they're both great on defense. And while there's so much bad NBA information out there, there really is an extraordinary amount of NBA information that's not going to help you win wagers. And yes, I'm pointing at you, the four-letter network. Well, if you watch ESPN, all you're going to see is Cleveland and the Clippers and the Knicks and whatever the big superstars are. If we look at Memphis, not a superstar team. They play defense, they hustle, they play down and dirty. There are no superstars on that team. We look at the Warriors, and I guess Steph Curry is kind of developing into the superstar, but he's not at a Carmelo Anthony level or a Blake Griffin level or a Kobe Bryant level or, the really marquee names. And, of course, we're not talking about the biggest media markets either. We're talking about any of the four teams that are the point spread moneymakers over the first part of the season. So no superstars, strong on defense, and not the biggest media markets. We'll see commonalities for all of the best point spread teams, or most of the best point spread teams, have these very same factors working in their favor.
Two more, Portland and Toronto.
Yeah, and the Blazers, again, hardcore fans know how good DeMarcus Aldridge is and Damian Lillard. Neither guy's crossed over in the mainstream by any stretch of the imagination. Portland's playing great defense in early season play. Toronto, their defense hasn't been great necessarily. And the Raptors, of course, for Canada, it's a huge media market. For the States, we ignore Toronto basketball. We've ignored Toronto basketball basically since Vince Carter left there like a decade ago. And for both the Blazers and the Raptors, much like the Warriors and the Grizzlies, you have not one or two guys that the team is relying on. Toronto with 5 double-digit scorers. Portland, where anybody on the team is capable of either lighting up on a given night or taking over for someone who's struggling on a given night. These are teams that are well balanced. They're not relying on any one or two guys. And they've all been huge moneymakers in early season play. And I wouldn't be surprised, Paul, because the goal here is to come up with actionable information for our viewers. I wouldn't be surprised if all four of those teams continue to make money for their supporters. There's a fifth one we're talking about, too, that I forgot to write on the list. That's Milwaukee Bucks, a team that no media market whatsoever. Nobody has any expectations for. Can you name two players on Milwaukee?
O.J. Mayo.
No. he's barely playing.
Mayo and
Exactly. Enough said.
Yeah.
And you follow this stuff.
Yeah.
The Bucks are your classic early season moneymaker, where they're just a little bit better than expectations. They've been a bottom feeder for years. They don't have any stars. You never see them on TV. And all you see them doing is covering point spreads. And again, a new coach comes in, some guy named Kidd.
Yep.
He had success last year with Brooklyn. And look at Brooklyn without him this year. They've declined significantly in early season play. Some of that may have to do with the fact that they're, older and not as good as a year ago. But I don't think the coaching change helped them in any way. Jason Kidd's making money for his supporters in Milwaukee, and I love teams like the Bucks because no one pays any attention to them, and you can ride them again and again and again, and they'll hold their value for an extended period of time.
That's the good. Give me the bad teams that are struggling ATS.
Well, you just look at the, we have the Knicks. The Knicks have been horrible against the spread. What do they have? They have a superstar who gets a lot of headlines in Carmelo. They have a big-name president now in Phil Jackson. They're in a major media market.
New coach, new offense, not working.
Not working at all. No. It's going to take a long time for New York to, go out there. Let's go to the other coast and look at the two LA teams that have both been significant money losers in early season play. Lots of hype for the Clippers coming into the season. You watched them in preseason. They didn't have their act together. You watched them for the first 3 weeks of the campaign. A lot of out of sync offensive possessions, really out of sync. Crunch time miscues. Clippers are getting better, but still, you look at their aggregate numbers, they're a bottom feeder against the spread. So are the Lakers. So are the 76ers. So you look at the very, very worst teams, they will always be money losers in the NBA. The other thing that you can look for, teams with marquee superstars that are living up to their billing, especially teams from major media markets, because again, the four-letter networks, that's all they report on. What's going on in LA? What's going on in New York? What's going on in Cleveland? Cleveland's been a bad point spread team. Bad point spread team.
Yeah, how long is that going to take where they can figure it out? New coach, new system, Love, Kyrie, LeBron. There's been back and forth bickering in the media. I mean, they shouldn't be a 500 team.
Why should
I know
they
it
be?
took time in Miami, but I'll tell you who's missing a big chance here is Chicago to separate themselves, because Cleveland's playing 5 on a ball, and Chicago can't run away and hide yet.
Well, and Chicago's not that good.
And Rose isn't in there either.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago's faced more than their fair share of injuries. The team that's running away and hiding right now is Toronto.
That's right.
No one's paying any attention to the Raptors. But how long for Cleveland? Will the struggles continue? They'll continue until they learn how to play defense, because as a team defense is not there for the Cavs. And if you watch opposing teams, again, I watch a lot of fourth quarter NBA basketball. When the games are on the line, the Cavs have problems getting stops. Opposing teams are getting good looks. And as long as you do that, and as long as you're on TV twice a week, and as long as every major media outlet is going to be talking about you, hard to get value with that team. I think we'll make a lot more money betting against Cleveland moving forward than we will supporting them anytime soon. They're explosive offensively. They're capable of going off. They did that night against the Hawks where they hit their first 11 three-pointers and beat them by 30. They'll have nights like that, but they'll also have plenty of nights where they struggle against the Milwaukees of the world, like they did earlier this week, barely escaping with the victory and as a double-digit point spread, and they're going to be double-digit chalk on a fairly regular basis.
One more, Houston. Not a fan of McHale as a coach. They bring in Ariza. They lose Parsons. What do you think of the Rockets so far?
The single biggest under-talked-about trend in the NBA this season is the Houston Rockets going, 13-2 to the under in their first 15 games. And I did a radio show, first preview, in fact, with Scott Spreitzer from pregame.com. And we talked to NBA beat writer from Golden State and said, what about this Rockets under trend? He's like, I didn't even notice it. It's not going to go on. Nobody's paying any attention to the fact that Houston's playing defense. Their pace is slower. Their three-point shooting hasn't been as good. Right now, both point guards are hurt. Their ball movement on offense is very good. And I think Kevin McHale, I don't know if it was all the highlights from James Harden last year, all those bad YouTube highlights that I think he got embarrassed. He's playing great defense in early season play. 13-2 to the under. I haven't heard one person talk about it. I'm going to talk about it. Rockets under. Another one of these trends that has the potential to continue making money for people who are following it because no one's paying any attention, the betting markets included.
Anything else we should look out for in the next couple of months? Something that can turn around or something, maybe a team that's under the radar that can come up and get a winning streak going or sneak into playoff contention?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about December right now because I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. When it comes to NBA, I really look, there's a November game plan, there's a December game plan, a pre-Christmas game plan, because there are so many teams, especially the good teams, that really aren't putting max effort in to winning November and December games, certainly not winning them by margin. One thing we have seen, though, we've seen all of these West Coast teams going east and getting fat off of this Eastern Conference.
Sure, yeah.
We saw Phoenix struggle, and then they went out east and got hot. We saw San Antonio go out east and get hot. The Clippers went out east and get hot. Golden State went out east and got hot. I'm sure there's a couple that I've missed. Denver went out east and got hot. The mediocre Western Conference teams and the good Western Conference teams, when you get them on these road trips and they start to click, man, you can just ride these teams again and again and again throughout the course of that trip. So that's something that I would definitely keep my eye on over the course of the next month here in December, riding some of these road trip streaks where teams are winning when they head, Western Conference teams are winning when they go back east, is definitely something to keep your eye on.
Nice work, Teddy. That's the first month of the NBA season. Go get them in December, make some money. And thanks for watching on pregame.com.